No idol before Jungkook has reached this type of acknowledgement in fashion, not as a campaign face, but as a global creative figure shaping aesthetic direction. This is not merely about a Korean artist entering Western recognition. It's about someone redefining what credibility in luxury means. For decades, credibility in fashion was associated with exclusivity, an unspoken agreement that true fashion belonged to those already inside. Jungkook has disrupted that idea without ever demanding inclusion. His path wasn't orchestrated to impress fashion insiders. It was built through natural evolution. The first time Jungkook stepped into Calvin Klein's world, the reaction wasn't about a celebrity wearing denim. It was about a form of embodiment, an alignment between the brand's raw American sensuality and Jungkook's understated confidence. Every campaign since has only expanded that narrative. The nomination now recognizes the power of that alignment. It shows how one image, one presence, can shift an entire brand's global perception. The industry rarely moves out of tradition, but Jungkook's rise in fashion has forced it to accelerate. When global publications, critics, and award panels look at him, they're not seeing a musician adapting to fashion. They're seeing fashion adapting to him. His visual language, monochrome tones, structured silhouettes, subtle rebellion beneath restraint has become identifiable across continents. The nomination didn't come out of hype. It came because he now represents an aesthetic movement that brands are trying to decode. Every generation has a figure who redefines connection between personal identity and design. For the 2022, that figure is Jungkook. He's not just wearing fashion. He's reconstructing how authenticity translates into luxury. Before him, idols often appeared as ambassadors to fulfill market expansion phases of campaigns chosen for influence in Asia. Jungkook, however, transcended that frame. His appointment as a Calvin Klein icon was never a regional strategy. It was global acknowledgement of aesthetic power. This nomination proves it. His name doesn't just sell. It shapes the artistic dialogue of a billion-dollar industry. The essence of his fashion influence lies in restraint. Jungkook's style refuses to scream for attention. He doesn't rely on extravagant color or experimental excess. Instead, he chooses proportion, fabric, weight, and tone, the kind of elements that speak through silence. His confidence doesn't come from dominance, it comes from precision. This is what makes fashion houses and critics view him differently. They recognize a natural designer's instinct, someone who knows how to inhabit clothing rather than wear it. When he appears in campaigns, there's an undeniable structure in his expression. Every gaze, every posture, every frame is intentional but never forced. That control over visual emotion is rare even among professional models. Jungkook's understanding of the camera comes from years of performing on stage, but what makes it distinct is the calmness he projects. He carries intensity without aggression, beauty without overstatement, and presence without demand. That balance has now become a visual standard across editorials. The nomination acknowledges this kind of control as artistry. It validates the idea that fashion expression can evolve from internal rhythm, not just fabric. In every campaign or public appearance, Jungkook curates atmosphere. When he walks into an airport, the lighting feels cinematic because he naturally translates environment into narrative. That ability to turn ordinary space into visual context is exactly what fashion has been trying to capture since its origin. His instinct transforms routine moments into editorial scenes. This is what makes his influence in fashion more than marketing. It's cultural cinematography. Luxury brands, especially those with deep-rooted heritage like Calvin Klein, rarely allow an external figure to reshape their visual DNA. But Jungkook did. The brand's aesthetic before him revolved around nostalgia minimalism inspired by 90 Seconds Americana. After his involvement, it became global modern minimalism, still raw, but refined through youth culture's quiet rebellion. That transformation wasn't orchestrated through press, it was perceived through imagery. Jungkook's creative identity merged with the brand's essence, giving it a contemporary rhythm that aligned with a new generation's desire for authenticity. What separates Jungkook from previous idols in the fashion sphere is consistency. He doesn't treat fashion as an accessory to fame. He treats it as language, a medium of communication that runs parallel to music. When he performs, the outfits align with his tone. When he models, the posture aligns with sound. There's a visible thread connecting his artistic choices across platforms. This coherence is why his nomination carries legitimacy. It's not about expansion, it's about mastery. Fashion insiders often speak of aura, an invisible energy that elevates clothing beyond fabric. Jungkook's aura operates differently. It's grounded yet magnetic. He brings gravity to minimal design. When he wears a simple black tee or structured denim, it doesn't look incomplete, it looks deliberate. That kind of transformation, making simplicity aspirational, is one of the rarest abilities in fashion. The nomination recognizes precisely this ability, the power to redefine value without embellishment. Throughout history, fashion has awarded creativity that feels exclusive. But Jungkook's nomination symbolizes inclusion through sophistication. His appeal reaches across demographics not because he adjusts himself to fit trends, but because he represents timeless balance. For the younger generation, he's the ideal of minimal rebellion. For traditional fashion observers, he's a reminder that refinement can coexist with edge. That universality is what gives the nomination its weight. It's not a regional achievement, it's a redefinition of fashion influence on a global scale. The cultural impact is visible everywhere. Search engines, luxury analytics, and brand monitoring reports consistently mark spikes in engagement whenever Jungkook appears in fashion content. But beyond numbers, the response reveals something deeper, a collective shift in taste. Consumers now seek quiet strength, structure, and authenticity. Those are exactly the values his fashion identity represents. The nomination, therefore, isn't just recognition of a person, it's confirmation of a new cultural direction. When fashion councils and juries recognize someone outside their typical sphere, it's never casual. It reflects acknowledgement that change is happening too visibly to ignore. Jungkook's nomination is proof that the modern definition of style authority has changed hands. It's no longer confined to designers or established houses. It now includes individuals whose image creates dialogue between industries. Jungkook stands at that intersection. His music informs his movement. His movement informs design. The nomination also underlines how modern fashion values narrative integrity. Every look Jungkook wears carries continuity from airport fits to global campaigns. His choices are deliberate extensions of his identity, not random stylistic attempts. Whether in denim, leather, or tailored silhouettes, the visual theme remains intact. Balance between softness and power. That consistency gives the industry a case study on how identity-driven fashion can hold greater resonance than trend-driven cycles. There's also strategic brilliance in how Jungkook handles visibility. Unlike many figures who flood public attention with overexposure, he chooses restraint. He appears selectively, and every appearance matters. That intentional scarcity creates anticipation, making his image valuable. Fashion thrives on perception management, and Jungkook intuitively understands timing. Each campaign release or public outfit becomes an event because his presence maintains rarity. The nomination highlights how this control elevates not only personal brand, but also the value of fashion association itself. His presence has redefined how brands view collaboration with global artists. Before him, collaborations were primarily commercial. Now, they're directional. When Calvin Klein appoints Jungkook, it's not just about reaching new markets, it's about redefining its cultural rhythm. The brand's visuals, palette, and tone have evolved in step with his imagery. That's not coincidence. That's mutual curation. The nomination acknowledges this symbiosis, the merging of artist and brand into one visual identity. Observers within the luxury space often describe Jungkook's influence as intuitive elegance, an ability to project sophistication without theatricality. That skill cannot be manufactured through marketing. It's the outcome of self-awareness, artistic discipline, and emotional intelligence. His aura doesn't depend on luxury to look elevated. Luxury depends on his aura to look modern. That reversal of power dynamic is what makes this recognition extraordinary. Even among high-end publications, the way editors write about Jungkook reflects this shift. They no longer describe him as a celebrity face, but as an aesthetic standard. His imagery sets tone for creative direction, lighting trends, and campaign composition across brands trying to capture similar, quiet magnetism. When one individual's visual tone starts shaping industry language, it becomes more than influence, it becomes framework. That's the scale of what this nomination represents. Beneath all this progress lies something simpler, his sense of authenticity. Jungkook never projects detachment from his audience. Even in luxury contexts, he preserves accessibility. His fashion doesn't isolate, it connects. This approach challenges the elitism embedded in luxury culture. The nomination thus also honors his role in democratizing perception, proving that sophistication doesn't require distance, it requires truth. In the past, idols were often considered part of commercial entertainment, not cultural innovation. Jungkook has shifted that definition entirely. He operates within mainstream visibility but maintains an avant-garde depth. His fashion work functions like design, research, constant refinement of proportion, movement, and tone. That discipline, invisible to casual observers, is exactly what fashion insiders identify as artistry. This nomination isn't just an accolade, it's a pivot point. It confirms that the future of fashion will not be led solely by designers, but also by multidisciplinary creators whose understanding of culture is instinctive. Jungkook stands as that prototype, a figure whose every decision carries creative precision. No idol before him has been able to translate personal essence into fashion credibility at this magnitude. The reason is simple. Most treat fashion as costume, but Jungkook treats it as character. Every appearance is a continuation of story, never decoration, always expression. That's why critics take him seriously. He doesn't wear fashion, he narrates through it. The nomination will likely open doors for future artists to cross into the same field, but the origin will always trace back to this moment, when one individual turned admiration into authority. Jungkook's legacy here isn't just historical, it's architectural. He built a model others will study, replicate, and evolve. What comes next is beyond recognition. This nomination could mark the beginning of Jungkook's next chapter, not as a representative, but as a designer's equal, perhaps even a future collaborator in conceptual direction. Because once fashion names someone as a creative influence, the next natural step is creative partnership. And with Jungkook's record of elevating every project he touches, that prospect feels not speculative, but inevitable. His journey has never followed predictable arcs. He moves with precision, observing silence until action matters. This nomination, like every turning point in his career, wasn't announced with exaggeration. It arrived quietly but with the weight of inevitability. The fashion world now stands at a threshold shaped by his presence, and no idol before him has ever brought it this far. The conversation around him has shifted from admiration to analysis, from fandom to industry study. That transformation alone speaks of evolution rarely seen in global pop culture. This is what the nomination symbolizes, not a milestone achieved, but a frontier redefined.